As Uncle Ben once said, with great power comes great responsibility. And we all know that this quote applies to Spider-Man or Peter Parker. However, after watching this show for at least 3 seasons now, I can say without a doubt that if there's one character this applies to almost as equally as Peter Parker, it would be the Invincible constantly treading the theme of whether taking the life of a villain is right for the greater good, or is it better just to be a traditional hero. This constantly tickles everyone's minds, especially the reader, on whether using your power for good makes you a hero, or it can make you damn near the villain that you're trying to fight. However, just like Powerplex, we'll make sure that Invincible can't keep getting away with it and analyze all his actions throughout Invincible's 3 seasons and see whether or not he truly is useless or he carried the season like Prime LeBron. What's good, YouTube? My name is Talk That Up Before here, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure to give me that like button. Subscribe if you're new, comment for the algorithm, join the membership today just for $2, and let's dive in. For the people that are new in my channel, basically what I do is that usually I'll put these into arcs where I would judge the characters on how useful they were. However, since Invincible literally has so many arcs, I just don't feel like it's enough. So today, I'm just gonna put it inside seasons. Since seasons already have so much packed in stuff, I might as well just go with that. Now, we all know that the first episode of Invincible starts with Mark realizing that he got his father's powers. You know, the powers of a Viltrumite, meaning that Omni-Man was reminded that, oh yeah, I gotta get Earth ready for the invasion of the Viltrum Empire. So, we all know what happens next. Omni-Man bodies the entire Guardians of the Globe, my fault. And the rest is history. They're just goners. Before Nolan went to a deep coma because of the whooping that the Guardians of the Globe gave him, he did train Mark somewhat to become a hero. So when Mark, first time out becoming a hero and stuff like that, the Flaxens first invaded Earth. And when they did invade Earth, they was very unsuccessful because time moves way faster on our planet than it does theirs. So they just rapidly aged and they died. However, when they came, Mark was so shook of people dying around him that he couldn't really do much until Team come up to bail him out. They did retreat for safety that time. However, when they came back much stronger, overpowering both Mark and Team, leading only Omni-Man to be their way of victory. Showing us that in the first season of Invincible, let's just say Mark wasn't really doing that hot. Doesn't really get much better from there, because Mark and the Guardians of the Globe have to face off against the Mafia boss, my GOAT, Machine Head, who everybody knows his iconic line, I know where your family lives, and that means you work for me. Alright, let me continue. Regardless, the goons that Machine Head had were kind of weak. They were like iffy, but they had really good synergy and they was putting in that work. However, there was one of them that wasn't his goons. Somehow, someway, he got Battle Beast to fight Team and Mark. And honestly, that changed the turn of events completely, because they was outmatched completely. Like, it wasn't even fair. It wasn't even close. This is like if Kingpin brought in Thanos or something to fight Spider-Man. Like, come on. However, before Battle Beast actually whooped Mark was the one who actually ended up handling all the goons by himself with his adrenaline rush. So Mark was kind of needed there, so And ultimately, at the end of the season, Mark and Nolan get some father-son Viltrumite bonding time, which left Mark permanently scarred for life because he had to fight his grown father, who's like thousands of years old with thousands of power and experience, using his head as a battering ram to murk multiple innocent lives. Regardless, Mark standing his ground is what made Omni-Man leave, which honestly is more impressive than anything because Viltrumites never leave. He was actually an anomaly, like no Miles Morales. So, if anything, he's not useless. He's goated, like LeBron glazed tier, without a doubt. Before we get into season 2, I gotta say, Mark did befriend Alan the Alien, and this is going to be very important since Alan is by far one of the most important characters in the series. Damn near right next to Omni-Man and Debbie. Now, Season 2 starts off with Angstrom Levy bringing multiple different variants of himself together and having a plan to fuse all of their minds into one so that he could cure, you know, multiple illnesses, world hunger, cancer, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, it's a crazy, smart idea if you just write it down, but the execution and everything just ended up being worse. Gave him the YouTube head. And it backfired because for some reason he blamed Invincible for this. Like, he didn't start it on his own. Like, Invincible didn't create the machine. I don't get it. They're surely reuniting with his dad and his little brother. He realizes that, oh snap, the Viltrumites are here. And, you know, Mark and Nolan have to tag team each other so that they can box these Viltrumites, which happen to be 3. Mark, still holding on to that little bit of humanity he had left, decided to spare one of these Viltrumites, which almost cost him his life. Oh, damn. And then Omni-Man had to carry and damn near murk almost all the Viltrumites there, except one of them, which is Lucan, who snuck him by the back. Oh, Mark, in that specific scenario, being the one that caused Omni-Man to be captured by the Viltrumites in the first place. I would say, you know, that's pretty useless for that, man. You gotta lock in. Hold up, wait a minute. Before you continue this video, I got something to tell you real quick. I got a side channel where I upload VODs of me doing live streams, which I do every Friday at 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern, where I just play video games, talk about anime discussions, blah, blah, blah. Make sure to subscribe there and, you know, tap in for the live streams too so you could be in those videos. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Back to the video. After Mark and Oliver make it back to Earth, they meet other Viltrumites. They have other situations, but it's not really important to Mark's, you know, how influential he was. What was important was when Angstrom Levy came back into the picture and actually started threatening Mark's family. He started putting Mark through multiple different dimensions, even putting that boy in Fortnite. And regardless, Mark was trying his best to hold back. But once he started hurting his mom and almost hurting Oliver, that's when he went full Viltrumite mode. He was beating the dog shit out of him. And it took him a little bit to realize that, oh snap, I think I might have killed him and I've gone too far. And so that's when, you know, Mark had to step back for a second. But honestly, I gotta give him a round of applause, alright? Even though at that moment he didn't know that he didn't kill him, he still went for it, you know? He saw his family was in danger. He was like, yo, no more holding back. I'm going for it. And that's pretty admirable. So for season 2, I'll put Mark in that bare minimum tier. I understand that he tried his best, but there was certain times where if he just, you know, flipped the Viltrumite switch faster, he could have got a lot of evil people out of this world. Like, some of them need to be gone, bro. Like, I understand that he thought that Angstrom Levy was dead, but Angstrom Levy surviving that altercation caused the Invincible War, which is on the scale of Nolan, you know, betraying the Earth for the Viltrumite Empire. Like, it's not good that he let them survive, and it's not good that he let most people survive, you know. After this, we know that Angstrom Levy dragged multiple Mark variants to terrorize the whole entire Earth and Mark's reputation, you know, his name. However, I don't agree that the fact that Mark, even though he did fight some variants here and there, he stopped. Like, he stopped fighting some of them because of Eve's recovery, saying that, oh, they could come in here and try to do something, blah, 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 blah. Regardless, Mark, there's millions of people dying. Oh, damn. You're not helping your name by secluding yourself in one area to protect your girlfriend. I understand Eve's bad and all, but like, there's multiple people out there losing their lives. You sitting there crying is not gonna do anything. There's a reason why people are making those memes of like Rexplode being a true hero and not invincible. Last but not least, we have Mark versus Conquest. Now, Mark, without a doubt, during this fight, was a punching bag. Oh, damn. He was getting whooped 95% of the time, and he was used as like a dumbing bell to mow people down, like actual just civilians, like they're action figures or something. But regardless, Mark was the one that put Conquest down, at least momentarily. But still, he did. You ask yourself, oh, but what about the other heroes like in Adam Eve or Oliver who helped stall, you know, Conquest for a bit? Yeah, that's true. But if Mark was a punching bag, those guys were actual whoopee cushions. The only person I would even put on the same caliber or even close was Adam Eve. But even then, Eve had one attack and fainted. Conquest, all he had to do was like, I don't know, shove her and her body would have exploded. Like, no. So ultimately, throughout season 3, if I was to give a tier of how useless Mark was, I would put him in the pretty good tier. I don't feel like he was useless in any season, but this season it could have been much better, considering that he was a key variable to keeping the Earth safe. But at the same time, there was several lives that, you know, it was just his fault. Like, what do you mean that you just left multiple variants of yourself fight and kill multiple innocent people and heroes to protect their girl? I understand it's a girl, but at the same time, it's like, yo, get out. And yeah, so far that's my tier list of ranking how useless Invincible was in every single season. Honestly, I gotta give props to him. He hasn't had a single useless one yet. Practically because, you know, it was very short and it wasn't by arc. If it was by arc, I would have definitely put him useless in some of them. The Vlaxen invasion. But if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure to give that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Comment for the algorithm. Thank you all who have joined the community. I love you all so much. I untagged that before, and I'll see you all next time.